While Yu-Gi-Oh! Players know there are 3 kinds of traps, the average person more than likely envisions normal traps, the type that can be activated at any time to disrupt your opponent's plays. That's a pretty reasonable vision as well, considering most of the traps in the game are normal, with many of the most iconic ones being normal traps as well. This is especially true for classic Yu-Gi-Oh!, where a bulk of the most played traps were normal traps, as floodgates and counter traps were not nearly as powerful. This list will go over the best normal traps before the advent of super monsters.
A solemn
And
judgment
starting off at number 10, we have
was a
compulsory
go.
evacuation device.
Everyone just didn't know how to play.
2004's Invasion of Chaos. Its most recent reprint came in the 2023's 25th Anniversary Rarity Collection. Compulsory Evacuation Device's effect is to target one monster in the field and return it to the owner's hand. Compulsory
People
Evacuation
value their
Device
life
is
points
most
a little
often
too
short
much.
to Pulse by players in the game, which is great because the card is a mouthful. The first printed Compulse
Anyone
didn't
who
mention
says
carding,
solemn
but
judgment's
official rules
cost
at the time
matters
stated that
a
it
whole
did.
lot less
What is
because
there bad to say
everyone can
about
just
this card?
OTK
Well,
or
not much,
fucking
clearly, as monster
idiots.
removal cards are generally good. Compulse can be activated at pretty
Solemn
much any
judgment
time,
is still good.
meaning unless
It's
your opponent
just good.
destroys it before
It
summoning
never
a
had any
monster, you'll be able
downsides.
to return something to the hand. So why is it so low on the list then? Well, the biggest reason for that is the fact the card isn't really being used to its full potential during this era of the game. If you activate Compulse on an extra deck monster, that monster returns from the field back to the extra deck instead of the hand. During the classic era, the extra deck was the fusion deck, and almost no deck actually fusion summoned monsters properly. Often, fusion monsters were cheated out of the extra deck using Metamorphosis. Since these monsters were not summoned properly, the best way to remove them from the field was to send them to the graveyard, as they can't be revived from those areas with cards like Premature Burial or Call of the Haunted. However, if they return to the extra deck, the same copy of the card can be used for another Metamorphosis play. While that doesn't matter much, since fusion decks weren't limited to 15 cards at the time, think about how much better Compulse got after Synchro Monsters came out. It takes a lot more work to get a tuner and appropriate level of monster out from Synchro Summon than to just get a monster out and use Metamorphosis. Outside of using Compulse to return extra deck monsters to the extra deck, it was more useful than other removals when combined with hand-ripping effects. If you can rip the monster out of their hand, you can prevent them from playing it again. Compulse is still good, of course, it's just that other cards on our list proved to be more useful in the early years of the meta. And at number 9 on our list, we have Magic Cylinder, which was first released in
Bouncing
2003's
gets more
Labyrinth of Nightmare,
powerful
and was most recently released in 2024's Quarter Century
the
Bonanza.
faster
Magic
a
Cylinder
format
can be activated to
becomes.
negate the attack of a monster your opponent controls, and then inflict damage to your opponent's life
As
points
long as you
equal to
get
the
rid of
attack
it on the
monster.
field so
Battle
you can
traps are obviously
OTK, then
really
it's
good
more
in
than
the early
enough.
days of the game, since there were less spell and trap card destruction cards around at the time. While Magic Cylinder only stops one attack, the burn damage it does can be huge for finishing the game off. Many burn cards do a low amount of damage, or require some good timing or conditions. Cylinder just requires your opponent to attack you. Obviously, the stronger the monster attacking you, the better that Cylinder is. Magic Cylinder was actually pretty featured by Konami during this period of the game, and was limited from April 2003 to August of 2010. And it makes sense too, as it would have been pretty easy to burn someone to death with 2 to 3 copies available. Magic Cylinder was commonly played in decks of the era, appearing in Yada Lock, Chaos decks, and most obviously
They don't
It
explode
has
if
plenty
you
of
kill
standard
them.
uses even after
They're
the
like
Super
creepers.
Monsters, with its most
They're
recent
literally
appearance
just creepers,
in
actually.
2021's WCQ Lion Octagon. While burning your opponent is good, removing your opponent's monsters from the field often provides to be more beneficial. Magic Cylinder's limited status didn't help it either, as the next trap on our list is another powerful battle trap.
Also, I
that
use
remained
charged ice
unlimited
instead of
during this
ice
time.
rounds.
And at number 8 on our list, we have Sakuretsu Armor, a normal trap released in 2003's Dark Crisis. It was most recently reprinted in 2024's Quarter Century Bonanza. Sakuretsu
It's a
Armor can be
four-man's mirror
activated when your
force.
opponent's monster declares an attack to target and destroy that monster. A battle trap that removes the monster from the field proved to be more useful most of the time. Outside of zombie decks at the time, most decks had to rely completely on Call of the Haunted and Premature Burial to summon monsters from the grave. Sakuretsu Armor is also very useful when you need to keep a monster alive, such as Spell Counselor or the level monsters. Thanks to Sakuretsu Armor's unlimited status, the battle trap proved to be insanely popular, appearing in most top decks from 2004 to 2007, with a heavy decline in use afterwards. This was probably due to the appearance of a new battle trap in Dimensional Prison, which banished the monster instead of destroying them, which was just way better. Amongst many deck lists, there was no standard ratio of Sakuretsu Armors to run, with decks seemingly running as many copies as they just preferred. While Sakuretsu Armor was great for removing monsters from the field, they still had to attack for the card to be activated. Thanks to another battle trap this era, players were very cautious when attacking into the back row, often waiting until they could clear them with a card like Heavy Storm before going on the offensive. While this is great for stalling turns, a card that could remove a monster at any time might prove more useful. The next card on this list does exactly that. And at number 7, we have Phoenix Winged Windblast, which was first released in 2005's Flaming Eternity. It was most recently reprinted in 2024's Quarter Century Bonanza. Sure gotta love these rarity collections for making these reprints easily accessible. To activate Phoenix Winged Windblast, you must discard one card and then target one card your opponent controls. The targeted card gets placed on the top of their deck, while the discarded card makes this a -1 card advantage. Spinning any card was a rare effect this early in the game. Phoenix Winged Windblast could hit back row cards as well as monsters, giving it a decent bit of versatility too. Because the card is placed on top of your opponent's deck, you effectively sabotage their next turn by replacing their draw with the one that could potentially be useless. Being able to activate Phoenix Winged Windblast at any time is great, as you can use it in response to a target destruction event. Although to make the best use of it, you'll want to wait for a good target. Ideally, this means a card that takes time to set up, such as a Tribute Summoned Monster or a pesky continuous trap. The discard cost of Phoenix Winged Windblast can be mitigated by discarding certain cards, such as Sinister Serpent, who will return to the hand during the next standby phase, or a light or dark monster.
How has it claimed many adventurers' lives when barely anyone has ever gotten here before?
Or that you need to be a little picky with what you target. Level 4 or lower monsters aren't the best targets, as they can just be summoned back.
Supposedly.
Additionally, if they have a good effect, such as Breaker the Magical Warrior or Magician of Faith, sending them to the top of the deck is better for your opponent than just destroying them, which is what the next card on our list does. And at number 6, we have Raigeki Break, a normal trap first released in 2003's Pharaonic Guardian. Raigeki Break has somehow dodged 4 rarity collections, with its most recent reprint coming in 2016's starter deck, Yyyy. Raigeki Break's activation cost requires you to discard a card and target one card on the field. Afterwards, the targeted card is destroyed. Raigeki Break destroying cards instead of sending them to the top of the deck gives it a little bit more utility than Phoenix Winged Windblast in the classic era. For example, destroying a continuous spell or a field spell is better than returning it to the top of the deck because they can just
actually pick the right way to go.
Raigeki Break is also a -1
I
card
hate it when I
advantage,
do that.
but can also be mitigated in the same ways. While in the modern game, some cards can prevent destruction by card effect, or can gain advantage from destruction by card effect, in the classic era, these are very few and far in between. In competitive play, Raigeki Break initially wasn't popular, having only a few placements from 2004 to 2008. However, it
honestly,
did
I'd understand why it isn't all that popular.
In Burbell and Dragon Ruler decks. But the popularity of GOAT format, Raigeki Break has seen more use in the classic
It's a -2 and it's a trap
thanks to the
card.
application of future knowledge to an older format. And at number 5, we have Dust Tornado, which was first released in 2002's Pharaoh Servant and was most recently reprinted in 2024's Speed Duel Battle City Finals. When Dust Tornado is activated, you target one spell or trap card your opponent controls. After the targeted card is destroyed, you can set a spell or trap from your hand. Spell or trap card destruction in early Yu-Gi-Oh! Is at a premium, with the standard back row 8 cards being limited. Dust Tornado is a solid option for this, as it doesn't have a cost and is unlimited. The more interesting part of the card, though, is the ability to set a trap afterwards. While this doesn't seem like a big deal at first, if you can set a card on your opponent's turn, then you'll be able to activate it immediately on your turn. However, if you set on your opponent's turn, they can destroy it before you can activate it, right? Well, if you use Dust Tornado intelligently, you can mitigate the risk of having your newly set trap blown up. One common play is to wait until your opponent's end phase, then activate Dust Tornado to destroy whichever spell or trap they set that turn, both destroying the back row card before they have a chance to activate it, while also being able to set a card during a phase where spell speed 1 effects can be activated to deal with the newly set trap. In competitive play, Dust Tornado saw plenty of use during the classic era, with well over 400 tops from 2004 to 2008. Dust Tornado is a great card, but to make full use of it, you need to run more traps than the standard amount. You'll also need to consider what kind of traps are good to set on your opponent's turn, so you can activate them on your turn. While a little bit of deck planning isn't the biggest deal, it does make Dust Tornado slightly less generically good than the next card on this list. And at number 4, we have Trap Dust Shoot, a normal trap which was first released in 2003's Pharaonic Guardian and was most recently reprinted in 2025's Quarter Century Stampede. Trap Dust Shoot can only be activated when your opponent has 4 or more cards in their hand. You look at your opponent's hand, then take one monster in their hand and return it to their deck. The deck is then shuffled. Trap Dust Shoot is already good for the hand rub effect alone, but the hand knowledge gained from the effect really sends it over the top. Choosing the monster to be shuffled back into the deck helps a lot, because you prevent a monster that would be good for your opponent and or bad for you from hitting the board. Furthermore, looking at your opponent's hand enables you to plan your moves for the next turn or two, as you'll know what cards your opponent has, and thus be able to play around them. This slower, less powerful version of the Forceful Sentry was somehow passed up during the first couple of ban lists, leaving Trap Death Shoot unlimited from its release in 2003 up until September of 2007's ban list, which placed it on the limited list. That's most of the Classic Era's lifespan, which means you can be rocking this card with several other hand reps like Don Zalug and Delinquent Duo to completely wreck your opponent's hand. In competitive play, Trap Death Shoot did see some use in 2003, but its popularity really spiked in 2007, which coincides with its placement on the limited list. Trap Death Shoot was eventually banned in March of 2013, long after the Classic Era ended. Obviously, Trap Death Shoot is extremely splashable in most decks, with the only requirement being freeing up space for it in those decks. In fact, the only reason Trap Death Shoot isn't higher on this list is that the final 3 traps on this list are pretty much auto-included in every deck for the Classic Era. And at number 3, we have Torrential Tribute, a normal trap first released in 2003's Labyrinth of Nightmare, and was most recently reprinted in 2024's 25th Anniversary 10 Dueling Mirrors. Torrential Tribute can be activated when a monster is summoned to then destroy all monsters on the field. It can't be activated when a monster is normal set. However, it can be activated when a monster is special summoned face down with a card like the Shallow Grave. Additionally, Torrential Tribute can't be activated during the damage step, so cards that float into other cards, such as Mystic Tomato, won't trigger the trap. With those rules clarified, Torrential Tribute is a devastating trap that can reset the board state in many situations. Normally, the way to use this trap is to simply wait for a powerful monster to hit the field, ideally one that has to be tribute summoned, and then blow it up with Torrential. However, you can use this trap on your summon as well, which means it pairs well with a monster that wants to be destroyed and or be sent to the graveyard. The most commonly played monster that fits its description would be Sandgin, which appears in most decks and searches when it's sent from the field to the graveyard. This lets you clear your opponent's monsters while getting a search off as well. Torrential Tribute even works on summoning Sandgin from the grave with Call the Haunted, so you can preserve your normal summon while blowing up the field for a search. In competitive play, Torrential Tribute was used heavily throughout the Classic Era, despite being limited the whole time. In fact, Tribute was limited until March of 2012, where it was made semi-limited. However, that didn't last long, so by September 2013 it would be limited again, before finally becoming unlimited in February of 2018. Torrential Tribute still sees play today, making appearances in Labyrinth decks. As good as Torrential Tribute is, the card can occasionally become problematic. If you have already established a board, you have less incentive to use Torrential Tribute. In decks where maintaining a specific board state is encouraged, Torrential Tribute might even be skipped. The next card on our list, however, doesn't have any such problem. And at number 2, we have Ring of Destruction, which was first released in 2003's Pharaonic Guardian, and was most recently reprinted in 2025's Quarter Century Stampede. Ring of Destruction can be activated to destroy a monster on the field and inflict damage equal to the monster's attack to both players. Ring of Destruction's combo of destruction and burning can make it a finisher in any deck. No monster is really a problem if you have it set, and even some of the strongest boss monsters of the era have no protection against the deadly trap, with the ring's usage against them actually being encouraged to maximize burn damage. Ring of Destruction was almost instantly limited for obvious reasons. Burning your opponent of all their life points would be too easy otherwise, especially since it was commonly used on your own monster to just burn your opponent for game. Ring of Destruction didn't stay limited for long though, as it was quickly banned in October 2005. While Ring of Destruction would return to the limit list for a year from September 2006 to September 2007, it would find a long wait on the ban list ahead. In fact, Ring of Destruction would remain banned until April 2015, when it received an errata harsh enough to make the card way more balanced. Ring of Destruction was now limited to your opponent's turn, could only be used on a monster whose attack was equal to or less than your opponent's life points, could only be used on your opponent's monsters, and had a hard once per turn slapped on it at that. This was enough to allow Ring of Destruction to be unbanned, and eventually made unlimited in 2018, where it went on to
one of the earliest cards to get a fucking
Ring of Destruction
once
might
per
be the
turn
most powerful trap in the Classic Era.
class on
But the
them.
last part on our list is something
Crazy.
special, with its mere existence changing the way the game is played. But before we do that, let's go on to an honorable mention. The honorable mention goes to Return from a Different Dimension, a normal trap that allows you to pay half your life points to special summon as many banished monsters as possible. During the end phase, you have to banish all the monsters summoned by the effect. Obviously, playing this card in any deck that banishes, such as Chaos, Stat, or Macrocosmos, gives you an easy way to OTK your opponent. But the only reason Return for the Different Dimension is an honorable mention instead of a high spot on this list is that it's overshadowed by Dimension Fusion, a spell card with a similar effect. It only costs 2,000 life points to do the same effect instantly, but with the downside of your opponent being able to special summon their banished monsters as well. However, if your opponent doesn't have banished monsters, Dimension Fusion is just a superior Return from the Different Dimension. And at number 1, we have Mirror Force, a normal trap first released in 2002's Metal Raiders. It has been reprinted over 30 times, with its most recent reprinting coming in 2024's Quarter Century Bonanza. Mirror Force can be activated in response to your opponent's attack declaration to destroy all other attack position monsters. Mirror Force's power is comparable to Raigeki or Dark Hole, able to wipe your opponent's board with a single card. Yet the fact that it's a battle trap changes how that power is presented. You see, you never know if your opponent's set card is a Mirror Force, but because it could be, you have to play more carefully. This means waiting until you have a way to wipe your opponent's back row cards before trying to push for game. Meanwhile, the set card could simply just be a bluff. But are you going to take that risk if you have a powerful monster on the field? Unlike Sakurata Armor from earlier in the list, Mirror Force incentivizes you to wait for a moment where it will do the most damage. This often means waiting for a boss monster, like Blackluster Soldier and Void the Beginning, or for several monsters to be on the field. While it's relatively safe to attack with one smaller monster, it also considerably slows the progression of the game state. I think you can see what I mean now by Mirror Force warping the classic era gameplay. Yu-Gi-Oh! Becomes a game of risk and reward, of bluffing and bold plays when a set back row card is on the field. It's very rare that the game state reaches this level, especially in the modern game, where you either stop your opponent from making plays or get crushed under an overwhelming force. Although Mirror Force has long since been power crept by variants of itself, it's often used as a backup battle trap to the power crept variants. After all, in this highly aggressive meta, if Mirror Force does resolve, you'll be able to turn the tables on your opponent, which is kind of a comeback Mirror Force has promised players since it was released all those years ago. Alright, and that's the list. If you know of a trap that we may have missed, or have an idea of your own, please let us know down in the comments below.
Folks, they said it wouldn't happen. The chances were slim to none. But we proved them wrong. It's June again. The bill died in Congress. We're safe for another year. That means it's time again for a theme month. And this time, I got a real good one. It's so good, there's 3 of them. I couldn't decide what to do this month, so I'm making it all your guys' problems. Think of the next 3 weeks as a contest between 3 theme months that I was very excited about because they had funny names that I absolutely could not deliver on. The theme of this theme month is Theme Months. F*** you. The first of our 3 contestants was the one which I could have made work the most. Welcome to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Month where I'm only allowed to play games that feature Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I thought he would have been in a few more games. He's in like 3 of them. Is he doing an Age of Empires too? Dwayne Johnson had a life.
Oh, I saw Warrock there.
Wrestler, but he wasn't a rock yet. So does that really count as living? Born to professional wrestler, soul man Rocky
me
Johnson,
too? It was probably
famous
time to refresh anyway.
wrestling family Atamayavia, The Rock was born into wrestling, despite his best efforts to do labor sports like rugby and football. After being cut from the Canadian Football League, The Rock would start his wrestling career in 1996. Though it wouldn't be for the WWF, which had scouted him, and he wouldn't be The Rock yet. Starting out in the smaller USWA promotion as Flex Cabana. Dwayne would do alright for himself in the USWA, winning their Tag Team Championship twice, before being called up to the WWF with a lot of pressure. Some promos hyping him up as a third-generation athlete, son and grandson to 2 wrestling greats, even taking their names to form his own Rocky Maivia. His debut was said to be in a featured bout at Survivor Series, a Big 4 pay-per-view. His very first match in the WWF was Sink or Swim. He would disappoint his namesake and did not sink, looking decent despite obviously being no gold dust. Everybody wants to be gold dust. Quickly though, Rocky Maivia would go from a plucky blue chipper who fought for good to a saccharine cartoon character who would receive death threats every time he walked through a curtain. Wrestling in the mid-90s was defined by edgy content. Both WCW and ECW, the other major American wrestling promotions, had embraced that. Hulk Hogan wasn't eating his vitamins and saying his prayers. He was smoking penises with his boys and spray... No! CW took it even further. The roster looked like drug addicts, and the other half were. Rocky Maivia, meanwhile, looked like he had gotten caught in a beaded curtain and decided to run with it. When he started getting pushed, the fans weren't happy. That led to one of the most infamous wrestling chants of all time, "Die, Rocky, die." People were so angry that this bygone fossil of a character was on screen that they wished death upon him week in and week out. It's only natural when you realize he was the Barney of professional wrestling. When the WWF had finally realized that people weren't going to keep paying to see pig farmers wrestle plumbers, which I had made either of those up, they updated a lot of their characters to fit the times, including Rocky, who joined the Nation of Domination. These were a group of black men who said the WWF was racist, which the company took every chance to prove correct. Rocky would shed the last name, and part of the first, to simply go by The Rock. And the rest is history. He would go on to become the World Heavyweight Champ 10 times, Intercontinental Champ 2 times, and Tag Champs 5 times. Despite wrestling being a predetermined sport, this championship portfolio does mean he was at the top of his industry. He wasn't the most dominant, like in a sport like mixed martial arts, but instead he was the person people wanted to see the most. The amount of time The Rock spent at or near the top of the company is indicative of just how popular he had become. He was one of the two faces of that era of wrestling, between him and Stone Cold Steve Austin. His in-ring ability had something to do with it. He was by no means a slouch athletically, but his charisma is what really got people to tune in. Opponents usually took a much worse beating on the mic than they would in the ring when facing The Rock. And it birthed dozens of catchphrases and t-shirts that made millions of dollars. So naturally, when it was time to wind down his wrestling career after the stresses of being a champion of this caliber, it made sense to lean on that electric personality even more in Hollywood. Before Rock entered the world of acting, you have what we like to call the good one, and then you have every other wrestler who tried acting. If you weren't lucky enough to be born Rowdy Roddy Piper, you were never gonna reach Hell Comes to Frogtown levels. The Rock would start strong with a featured role in The Mummy Returns and its spin-off, The Scorpion King, but for years was languishing in movies of little note, with flops like Gridiron Gang, Southland Tales, and Doom. It was during this time, in 2006, he would star in one of only God, I'm so stupid. I could've just played Doom. What was I thinking? Okay, so I'm opening a fresh wound here. It wasn't that long ago I looked at Midway from this era, and how they managed to flop on their face. Largely due in part to games like the one we're talking about. Midway in the 2000s was a strange company. One with all the pedigree and talent to hang in the evolving industry, but none of the know-how to make it happen. They ruled arcades. To list what they've accomplished would take forever. When arcades dried up, though, and people took their money back home, they struggled to find out what to do with themselves. Designing games for the home versus arcade are two completely different fields, and philosophies from one will not work for the other. Nobody is going to sit down at Dave & Buster's to play The Last of Us, and Time Crisis doesn't feel right if you're not in a kind of dirty bowling alley. You see games like Freaky Flyers and think, are you in the right place? One of the only series they had that seemed to balance what the studio knew with what it needed was Spy Hunter, based on the 1983 arcade game. A precursor to endless runner games of today, Spy Hunter saw you blasting bad guys in a high-tech car. guns, gadgets, and the ability to transform into a boat. Spy Hunter would be one of Midway's biggest arcade hits of the 80s, topping multiple months as the highest-grossing arcade machine, and even having one of the few truly great transitions onto home consoles with the NES port. Midway wouldn't do much with the series through the 90s, but would revive it in the 2000s for a PS2 spit and shine. Spy Hunter PS2 found the sweet spot between arcade and console that led to one of the sole success stories coming out of Midway at the time, selling over 1 million copies across the PS2 and Xbox. Both then and now, there weren't really games catering to a single-player card combat experience. You get one now, it's likely to be Twisted Metal-inspired arena combat. Spy Hunter took the direction of an action game set entirely in a car. Spy Hunter and its sequel, Spy Hunter 2, weren't game-changers or anything. I mean, Spy Hunter 1 dropped on the same day as Phantasy Star Online 2 and Silent Hill 2, but for what they were at the time, these were some of Midway's biggest hits. So when it came time to continue the series with a third game, Midway would sign on The Rock to give the game the feeling of a big-budget movie. The Rock is more featured on the box than the car is. In their death throes, Midway became obsessed with adding celebrities to their games, a move as frugal as it was successful. The tombstone doesn't make for a very interesting twist, does it? Spy Hunter with The Rock, Stranglehold with Chow Yun-fat and John Woo, The Wheelman with Vin Diesel, all three games leaned on Hollywood glitz and glamour, and instead got blacklisted. While the other two Spy Hunter games managed to do well for themselves, the eventual Spy Hunter 3, called Nowhere to Run, would flop hard. Not even getting close to half of what Spy Hunter 2 managed. The lasting legacy of this game is just as a funny joke The Rock made at the 2017 Game Awards while promoting Jumanji.
You were in the game too?
Yes, I was in a game. Yeah, Spy Hunter, classic Midway game. 2006. I'm still loving my 3 out of 10 review from Game Informer, by the way. 3 out of 10.
Okay, that's all right.
Yikes.
Okay, does this game deserve to be looked at for any other reason besides shitty theme month puns? Let's find out. A story rundown of Nowhere to Run would just be around 2 minutes of listening to me waste air. This game's story is paper thin. It's nearly translucent. When John Carmack said story in a game is like story in a porno, this is the game he was talking about. You play as Alex the Rock Decker, a spy working for the Good Spy Organization who has to take down Nostra, the evil spy organization. The game tells you about half of these details before skimming over the rest. It takes an hour and a half for somebody to say the main character's full name. There is no setup to establish this world before you get set loose in it. I was expecting at least a villain to say something like, the great Alex Decker, just to clue us in, but even after finishing the game, I don't know half the main cast's names. The scenarios that make up each level are completely detached. What happens in one scene rarely influences the next. You'll go from an underground base, to a jungle, to a city, with no explanation as to how or why. Not even a map screen showing us how we're getting to these places. That's the least you can do.
Why?
At first I thought it was because
thing
this is the third game in the series.
you can do with the
Maybe you're
joystick.
just supposed to know by this point. Which, I guess makes sense, but even then, people who are just picking this game up because The Rock was on the cover are gonna be confused. Except, this game and the previous 2 Spy Hunter games have completely different main characters, who are still both named Alex. It's not the same villain, not the same supporting cast. I'm surprised they remembered to put the car in the game. The game throws bad guys at you like you're supposed to know who they are. Like a mid-boss against this evil agent lady who shows up, says nothing, and then leaves. Or the final boss of the game, this cyber soldier who shows up in the previous cutscene by accident. In the boss fight just before this, he crawls out of a tube and then doesn't show up again until the next cutscene, where he's introduced for the first time. I think this was a shoot fuck-up. What this game tries to pass for a story was so confusing, I had to do further research. I had to find out what was going on and why the game was this weird. And you know it, I hit the mother lode. The reason this game makes no sense is because it's only half of the full story. See, The Rock being brought on wasn't just to give players the chance to practice kissing with the box art. No, The Rock wasn't just signed on for the Spy Hunter game, he was signed on for the Spy Hunter movie. Spy Hunter was supposed to get a film adaptation in 2006 to coincide with the game. But various production problems, like script rewrites and dropping its director, would lead to it getting shelved. Funny enough, that director who would have directed Spy Hunter was John Woo of Stranglehold fame. So it still got to fail hand-in-hand with Midway like he was always meant to. Come to think of it, Rock couldn't escape either. He might not have had to have been in Spy Hunter, but in 2018 he was in the movie Rampage. So he didn't get out of being in a Midway movie, he just postponed it. With the movie being Crib Kill, that leaves nowhere to run in a spot that I don't think any other game has ever been put in. It's a movie tie-in game without its movie. When you look at it again with that understanding, suddenly the whole thing starts to make sense. The game doesn't show you how you get from one place to the next. That would have been in the movie. You don't know who any of these characters are? You would know if you saw the movie. Knowing this game pretty much had its plot jettisoned into space makes everything so much clearer. Seeing as he is the selling feature for the game, I also want to dedicate some time to talking about The Rock's performance. For being somebody whose entire image is based on his effortless charisma, Rock comes off in this game as wooden. This is a Rocky Maivia performance. 2006 Rock was still in a dead zone where he wasn't wrestling cool Rock anymore, but he also wasn't Terramana Tequila Rock yet. He was trying to be actor Rock, which is the worst Rock. His performance feels interchangeable, and nothing about it feels like it needs to be The Rock. He's really low energy, and the script he's reading from doesn't give him anything to work with.
The traffic was a bitch.
You said you took care of the scientist.
No, I said the mission was a success.
But she's still alive. How the hell is that a success?
Got her phone number.
I'll give you an order.
Put a bullet in one of our own? No way I'm doing that.
It's as generic a spy movie plot as you can get, and in that, Rock is given nothing interesting to say or do. You'll forget a cutscene happened as soon as it's over. If you're going to have The Rock in your game doing wrestling move takedowns, write him like he just clocked out of a title match. He throws out a few quips, but he should be dressing down every boss he fights, calling them jabronis and dropping elbows. You can't tell me they wanted to play it straight in a game like this. Luckily, all of its lines in the game could fit on a sticky note with space left for a shopping list. Great investment, Midway. The rest of the voice cast is shockingly stacked with prolific talent who get nothing to do. Kerry Waldron, Steve Bloom, Jameson Price, they're all over the game, but if The Rock doesn't get anything good to say, what chance do they have? Shoutouts to the two main villains, though, who are voiced by the same guy doing a kind of different voice.
Gentlemen, Dr. Cyrus and I are glad you could make it. Yes, as Project Phoenix nears completion, you will see we are putting your capital to good use.
Gameplay is divided into three major categories. There's hand-to-hand combat, gunplay, and of course the driving. When on foot, combat is your standard light and heavy affair with a grapple button and finisher if you stun an opponent. Combat is complicated. Not because of the inputs. No, there is no depth to be found here. And that can be a problem. You just have to mash light and end with a heavy to kill every enemy who isn't a walking tank. And while that isn't engaging, that doesn't stop it from being fun. Hits have a great feedback thanks to their sound effects being incredibly punchy and strong sounding. Especially the heavy hits that ragdoll the opponent and send them flying. Sending them into stuff like shelves will cause them to explode into splinters and scatter what was on them all around the room, which leads to a lot of fun environmental destruction. It's satisfying despite its simplicity. The highlight of the hand-to-hand combat, though, is the grabs. Not enough beat-em-ups to let you play as a grappler. Being a super agent on a secret mission and still taking the time to mother effing bomb people off the side of a boat into the Arctic Ocean and hitting them with rock bottoms and crossroads, is the absurdity I wanted from the game that it mostly fails to deliver on. As soon as the game gave me the option to toss people to their deaths, it's all I ever tried to do. And when I found out they can't even break out after some time to stop you from dragging one guy to the end of the level, I was even happier. Shame that some of the environmental traps for stage kills don't work. I should mention that I'm playing the PC port of the game done in 2009 by Steel Monkeys. Yeah, a port to PC 3 years after the game launched on PS2. Only in Europe! I can't explain it either. Midway was already dead by this point. Since it's a port onto what's nearly 2 decades more advanced hardware, I expected some issues, and think this might have been one of them. They're much worse in the other 2 sections, but just keep in mind that if you're going to play this, I am showing you the worst version you can play. Gunplay gets introduced soon after, and fortunately takes up a lion's share of the gameplay. It's standard over-the-shoulder shooting, but it's just not done in a very fun way. The main issue is how sluggish the aiming feels. Moving the reticle around feels like there are bungee cords on either side, making it hard to move without resistance. You're better off firing the gun preemptively and hoping that enemies run into your crosshairs, because you're not going to be able to aim before they move. The problem is mostly avoided, thanks to the game's enemy AI being suicidal with its movements, but when the game forces you to precisely aim, it's horrible. These little drone enemies are lucky they only show up about 3 times, otherwise I'd have a lot more to say in a much less kind tone of voice. Enemies are also shockingly strong. HP totals that fluctuate between a few bullets and multiple magazines of machine gun fire. Look at this, I'm 3 mags deep and he's still fighting! Headshots aren't even a done deal. I would have been fine turtling up and going on a point-and-click adventure, but they either are very finicky or aren't in the game. Movement speed is also way too slow when using a gun, except when walking to the left and right. Strafing is noticeably a lot faster than straight walking, so for any speedrunners, try treating the game like a side-scroller and only use left and right. The game has a cover mechanic where you press up against a wall, but hell if I ever use it. It leaves you more open than just rushing at the enemies, which is how I handle things most of the time. Running at enemies will often provoke them to put their CQC to work to fight you hand-to-hand, which lets you back up and shoot them in the face. What I'm doing? This is Big Boss's will. That, along with enemies having terrible aim, is all that makes the shooting sections tolerable. If the enemies could aim, I would be a lot more upset, but as it is, I don't think the shooting is irredeemably bad. It is still fun to blast through bad guys with guns and grenades, and some of the weapons feel a lot better to use than the rest. The Uzi is surprisingly strong. You also have this missile salvo that will slow down time to take out a bunch of stuff at once, but let me tell you this. Sluggishness of the aiming is tripled in this section. Your mouse has a boulder chained to it, and trying to hit one thing before the time runs out is hard enough. Going for multiple things? Not a chance. Luckily, I don't think it's ever
elevator.
required for progression, just to take out multiple targets at once if you want to. You can ignore it, but I don't want it. It looks cool. The thing that makes driving so much better than the other parts, though, is how it keeps up a constant kinetic energy thanks to always being moving. You're going fast all the time. Are enemies crashing into you? Explosions all over the place. It's thrilling. Where the other sections can feel slow because of the movement speed and aiming, these sections don't have that problem. You're allowed to be bigger and faster. It also gets more variety, since at certain points you can swap between a car, boat, and bike for different terrains and challenges. Boat and car are pretty much the same, but bike is much different, stripping away most of your weaponry in favor of a compact size and maneuverability. The bike isn't used as much for combat, but more turbo tunnel-style reaction challenges, needing you to duck between different fences and sliding under lasers while being chased by a rocket, or chasing down a transforming train. See, On Foot can't do anything like this. You ask for something interesting, they send out a guy with slightly more armor. Oh, the height of fantasy. The action is at its most engaging when you have to swap between these different modes on the fly. The minute you're in the streets, next minute you veer off into a canal and transform into a boat. For a game that clearly has its limitations, when it's doing what it does best, it's pretty engaging. Playing this makes me wish I was playing the last two Spy Hunters because the game is much better off staying in the car. The levels themselves are pretty good. Not a lot of sections that gave me trouble. For the most part, the on-foot sections and run ones, come to think of it, are just action-packed hallways. Forward, and you'll eventually get to the end. They can even include some cool set pieces, like this laser maze you have to get through by triggering pressure pads. I like how they give you option to just barrel forward, only to reveal it's a dead end. Very anti this game, but decent change of pace. There are some non-car vehicle sections as well, namely the spider tank that appears a few times as a mini-boss. You get the chance to pilot it yourself, and the battles you have with other tanks while riding it are some of the most thrilling parts of the game. Staying on the move and getting your shots in while you can, not bad at all. Speaking of which, the game does throw in a few boss fights against mostly forgettable grunts who only have names because there was a vacancy above the health bars. They do a decent job shaking things up, better than he moves to a turret and tells you to have fun. Somehow fighting the turrets is more fun than actually using them. The agent lady who I mentioned before confused me at first, but I quickly learned you were just supposed to shoot the platforms out from under her until she got bored and left. If you can even count it as a boss fight, the one before the final boss is easily the worst in the game. You just have to destroy these power cells on this tower, but there are enemies all around this circular room that can shoot you from any angle. There's no cover, there's way too many of them to take out before they take out you. Best strategy is to just plant yourself in one spot, fire at as many cells as you can, and hope that you can get to the other ones before you die. This was the section I replayed the most in the game, and I got
Welcome to the
real
rooster.
sick.
Very well.
The final boss is somehow even more underwhelming, as you have to shoot boxes to drop on his head and shoot them out of the sky before he can throw them at you. If you run out of ammo in the middle of the fight, I think all you can do is let yourself die to restart this Koala boss fight. After that is just a tiny section in a plane that I had to keep restarting because the skip cutscene button is also the jump out of a plane button. But after that, Spy Hunter is done. One of the biggest complaints when the game came out was its lack of content. But really, after playing it for myself, I'd count that as one of the game's strengths. This game is a short 3-hour experience, and if I had paid a cent for it, I might be upset. But frankly, if you tell me a game is only 2 hours, I'm a lot more likely to play it. I love games that can compete in only a few sittings, and if I have to keep coming back to it over and over again, it's just more likely I'll drop it. It's why I'm still not past Part 1 of Baldur's Gate 3. You heard it here first, folks! Spy Hunter Nowhere to Run is better than Baldur's Gate 3! The game's completely disconnected method of getting you from level to level helps in this regard, since there's pretty much no downtime. It's just big action set piece after big action set piece. There is no cooldown. That's to the game's advantage. Talking for this long about a game this simple has already been a challenge, so it wisely doesn't overstay its welcome. Spy Hunter Nowhere to Run is a complicated game to recommend. One hand, it's not good. On the other hand, it doesn't feel as bad as it is. I still had an enjoyable experience despite its lack of quality. I would say give it a try, but quit at the first sign of frustration. The game does not improve much past the first mission. It kind of just stays at a stasis point of 5 out of 10, and only dips above and below it for a few minutes at a time. If you don't enjoy it at first, just give up. You're not gonna come around on it.
You'll do
What
it,
it
right?
is, a game
That's
that
what I
needs
thought.
2006 energy instead of blood. It's a very quick game with a lot of jank that I didn't have as
This
bad a
is
time with as I
something
expected.
Right, your items. Just leave it there. Is there
Anyway, Rock's
anything
gearing up
else?
to be in his first good movie.
Wanna
That'll be
equip it?
exciting. Join us next week for another idea that I thought had more legs than it did as we tackle NC Drew.
You've made a wise choice.
Yes, at once.
Well, off you go.
Welcome to the Rooster Inn. Sign in over here, please. Come back here whenever you're tired.
GB, buddy! I have Yo. What is your favorite thing about Magic the Gathering?
My favorite thing about Magic the Gathering. Oh my god, that's a
It's in your
great
name.
question.
It's in your name.
Blue? It's not go.
It's
Go is like how you end your turn. It's gotta be blue. Okay. Blue. Blue is my favorite thing about Magic the Gathering. Did I do it right, Senpai?
because I'm going to be showing you blue Yu-Gi-Oh cards today. Are you excited?
Thought you didn't have colors. So these are blue feeling cards?
They are
It's the
blue
vibe?
cards because they are ritual monsters. Because ritual monsters are yet another summoning mechanic in our lovely game known as Yu-Gi-Oh. Do you know what a ritual monster is? Does it sound familiar at all?
No.
Excellent. That means you and I are going to have a wonderful time. And as always, I'm going to be showing you some cards, and you have to tell me at any point that you thought these cards were so powerful they had to be banned. Are you ready, buddy?
I guess. Do I have to learn another summoning mechanic?
You do,
After
but
I'm starting to think I knew a bunch of them. Okay.
I'll help you out. This one is pretty simple, and we're going to start with a very easy one to help you understand, okay? So, a ritual monster is summoned through a ritual spell card. So I'm actually going to show you the ritual spell card first to make this even easier.
Black Illusion Ritual. It's a spell card. It all comes together. This card is used to ritual summon Relinquished. You must also tribute a monster from your hand or field whose level is 1 or more.
So how a ritual monster works is that when you have both the ritual monster and the ritual spell in your hand, you would activate Black Illusion Ritual, then tribute a monster with the specific level requirement. In the case of Relinquished, it's 1 or more, from either your hand or your field to the graveyard, and then you play the ritual monster on the field. If it makes sense.
It's like tribute summoning, but you need a card to do it?
Correct.
You need a spell to do
That
it?
is actually incredibly accurate. The difference is you can tribute the monster from your hand as well, so it doesn't have to be on your field, so you don't have to get it out first.
Okay.
So with me?
Yeah.
Okay, and typically with most of these types of cards, they are supposed to ritual summon a specific monster. So here is your first monster.
Relinquished. This is a dark level 1 monster with no attack or defense.
Correct.
Okay. When you ritual summon this card with Black Illusion Ritual, once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls, equip that target to this card. This card's attack and defense become equal to the equipped monsters. If this card would be destroyed by battle, destroy the equipped monster. While equipped with that monster, any battle damage you take from battles involving this card inflicts equal effect damage to your opponent. That's a lot of stuff.
It is.
Okay, if something is equipped to this, can it still do things on its own, or is it like it's not on the field?
It is like it's not on the field. It is considered part of Relinquished, and is it's essentially it is like an equipped spell card, if you will. So it's just giving it the stats, and that's all it does. So it's effectively a very unique form of Relinquished.
And if it were destroyed by battle, you destroy the equipped monster instead. If it's destroyed any other way, does the equipped monster go back to being the opponent's monster?
No, it would just go to the graveyard with them.
Okay, if the relinquished is returned to hand, what happens to the monster?
It gets destroyed.
Okay, these are good things. So it's removable. it very like there's no way they can get out of it, is what it sounds like, unless they relinquish, maybe.
Pretty much, yeah. There's not really a way to. If that monster gets sucked up by Relinquished, it's for all intents and purposes like it's gone.
Okay. So you have to have a ritual, you have to have a level 1 monster, you get this thing, it has the stats of the opponent's monster, and it says while it's equipped to that monster, any battle damage you take from battles involving this card. So that is weird to me. Any, battles involving this card seems like a different line of text. So is that only, when this thing bumps into another thing, either it's been attacked or it is attacking and it gets into a fight with something, then that damage affects the opponent, not all the different battles that could occur in a turn?
Correct, only with Relinquished. But it is like you said, if you attack into something or they attack into you, that's what we're doing.
Okay. And what important questions? What era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Are we playing?
This is the very first era of Yu-Gi-Oh! This is actually one of the boss monsters of the first villain in anime.
Boss monsters of the first villain very early. And I haven't seen these at all?
You've not seen... I do not think I've shown you a single ritual monster. This is actually highly requested from the fans.
Why wouldn't you show me these at all, after all we've been through?
I'm trying to help, help you keep your sanity. That's why.
Or... not that good.
Okay.
Is that what it is?
Maybe.
As usual, when you show me cards, I assume that doing the thing isn't that hard. Because it's a small deck, you get up to 3 copies, and there's ways to tutor for...
Were there really no other elevators?
I will let you know that is correct.
Yep, okay. So, once per turn, you target 1 monster. It is once per turn?
It is, but you can only have 1 monster on the at a time. You would have to somehow get rid of the thing it already has if you wanted to suck something else up.
Is that a reasonable combo to achieve, or is that more of a niche opportunity?
It sort of depends, because you could theoretically crash your own Relinquished into something that your opponent has that's weaker, right? So, it kind of depends. I would say it's harder than
damage? Man, they take damage? That's so mean! So mean. I'm trying to remember early day removal. It seems like this would be early day good. It really does. But then you also had early day cards that got banned that just yoinked the opponent's thing and they hit them with it and then tribute summon it.
It's similar.
It's similar, but it's extra steps, right? You gotta have pieces. So comparing it to some of those cards that did, I believe, talk about get banned, like various effects like that, this isn't as good. It does keep the opponent's thing out of the graveyard, which I bet matters in plenty of cases. Man, when we start out like this, it's hard for me to go straight to banned at all, unless it absolutely blows my mind. That's kind of where I'm at now, is if my absolute brain gets exploded, I might go to banned. But for the very first time seeing this mechanic, and seeing that you have to have another card, and that you get a 0/0, and it is dependent on you hitting something good from the opponent. Obviously, opponents try to play good cards, but there's got to be times where this isn't the most amazing thing in the world as well. There's got to be matchups where it's also a little more difficult to make this work good. It seems like a good card, but I'm gonna say this was not banned.
Final answer?
Yes.
Let's talk about Relinquished. So, being the antagonist's penultimate boss monster, the ultimate boss monster is something that is even more disgusting than this. I actually think I may have shown it to you. But Relinquished was a really cool card. One of the first ritual monsters that actually did something. The first ones were printed just as vanilla text, and they didn't really have abilities. They were just big stats. But Relinquished is good because not only does it have an effect that is removal, a unique form of removal, but it's also level 1. And the fact that it's level 1 means that it's pretty easy to always be able to summon it because you don't have to sacrifice multiple monsters, let's say. Like, for instance, if it's like level 7 or 8, you'd have to probably sacrifice 2 monsters, or you'd have to have a level 7 or 8 monster or higher to commit into a large thing. So pretty minimal investment for something like this. And back, like you said, like there were these types of effects that got banned for stealing your opponent's stuff. So Relinquished is totally fine, or correct.
I got scared for a second because it didn't even occur to me you could just play this. You don't need to have the ritual to summon it, right? You can just cast this.
No, you do have to summon it off of the ritual. Yes.
Oh, it is the only way to summon it. I just had this moment of like, oh my god, wait, can I just like play this because it's a level 1 whenever
Absolutely.
I want? Okay.
But it's just a minimal investment for it.
Yeah.
Just because level 1 is the lowest level than anything. There's no level 0. Anyway,
we'll get into that.
Next card.
Demise, King of Armageddon?
That's exactly what he sounds like. Yep.
It's a name, dude.
It's pretty badass, huh?
So bad. Okay, this is a level 8 dark monster with attack 2400 and defense 2000. Fiend ritual effect. You can ritual summon this card. End of the world. I love it. It's busted. Damn this. It should be special. It better be special. It better be good. Okay. You can pay 2,000 life points. Destroy all other cards on the field.
Pretty great, huh? Great.
Okay, so where's the end of the world? Where is this?
So I'm not going to show you End of the World. End of the World is so all ritual spell cards basically say the same thing, where it's like tribute monsters that equal or exceed the level of whatever you're trying to summon, and then so they're all basically the same thing, but they only apply to their respective monster. What I'm going to show you is the card that was used in tandem with Demise. Give this a
Advanced Ritual Art is a spell, and it says this card is used to ritual summon any one ritual monster. Must also send normal monsters from your deck to the graveyard, whose total levels equal the level of that ritual monster.
So I told you before how ritual summoning typically you have to tribute the monsters from either your hand or field. Advanced Ritual Art sends them from the deck. So now you don't even need the materials on the hand or field, so it's one less step you have to go through to get these guys out on the field.
Okay, normally you would need a level 8, right?
Or 2 level 4s, or a level 2 to 6. Yeah, as long as it's... So the one difference is, we call it ARA. ARA requires it to be exact, which is one key difference. With other ritual monsters, you can, ritual spells, you can over-tribute over the level, but Advanced Ritual Art does require it to be exact.
I like blowing things up.
I bet.
Blowing things up is fun. It's very Timmy. It's Timmy fun, right? We enjoy that.
The final arc, I think.
Big effects. Yes. Is it busted?
Context, I want to say this was 2006, 2007. So about 5 years into the game's history.
Honestly, I'm more worried about Advanced Ritual Art. I'm worried about like putting something from your deck into the graveyard that creates some kind of a combo that you can immediately like somehow combo with this from the graveyard. That's what I'm already like. That's kind of spooky. But in that case, the problem might be Advanced Ritual Art. Because when I look at Demise, yes, badass, but very much a card I think belongs in a game. I like board wipes. I think board wipes are a good thing. I think board wipes on bodies that cost a decent amount to get on the field are good things. This doesn't cost a decent amount if you have an Advanced Ritual Art, but at the end of the day, play this. If you have 2,000 life points to pay, use it, pull up everything, you punch your opponent for 2,400, but then at that point, like, you were way ahead, you might have blown up your own stuff, you're way behind, you might already have a life total in jeopardy, and then you're I guess you can from there summon and do other things, maybe make a board that can kill your opponent then if everything's going perfect. But if you end up passing the turn from that and they reload, they just attack you some more. I mean, I feel like this is a board wipe on a body, which is very good, and it does require a cost, unlike many free things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Of the 2,000 life points that could leave you in a bad position. I think it's a great card. I like it. I honestly, like, my alarm bells around Advanced Ritual are a little stronger. This feels like it can, with the right card, just be a one. Like, what's supposed to be a 2-card combo, this can kind of make almost into a 1-card combo. That's scary. That's spoopy to me. So, if the question is about Demise, I'm gonna say not banned, because I think it's cool. And if it was banned and it's because of Advanced Ritual Art, which does seem like an amazing card, I'm gonna die on the hill that Advanced Ritual Art's the problem. That's what I would say. Yeah, not banned.
I'd like me to show you a couple other things here, and maybe you can put them together. You said we're worried about Advanced Ritual Art, and
I don't know.
Why don't I take a look at this guy?
Insect Knight is a level 4. Is that Earth?
Yes,
attack 1900.
It is a normal monster, so it's
no a normal monster. Have those?
You do, yes, because Advanced Ritual Art has to send normal monsters, right? So how would this work? If you play Advanced Ritual Art, how do you summon Demise?
You put 2 of these in the graveyard?
Correct. You pass. Okay. So now you put 2 in the graveyard, Demise is on the field, you put the board. Now give this card a read.
Doomdozer, level 8,
Sure.
Earth thingy, attack 2800, defense 2600, cannot be normal summon, of course. Must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 2 insect monsters from your graveyard. If this card inflicts battle damage to
That was
your
awesome.
opponent, send the top card of their deck to the graveyard.
These are final.
Okay. Megamorph! Welcome! While your life points is lower than your opponent's, the equipped monster's attack becomes double its original attack. While your life point is higher, the equipped monster's attack becomes half.
Put it together.
I see. It sure seems to me like you're going to use Advanced Ritual, put 2 Insect Knights in your graveyard, and cheat out Demise, the King of Armageddon. You're going to pay 2,000 life points. You're going to blow up everything but Demise, King of Armageddon. Then you're going to use the insects in the graveyard and play the Doomdozer. And you're going to equip the Megamorph to it, so that it attacks for, quick math, is that 5,600 plus 2,400 from Demise? What's that at? What is that? Is that an OTK? Is that how we do? Is that what that's called? And your life total is lower because you paid the life points for Demise. It doesn't even say once a turn, does it? Oh, it's when it enters, so okay. So yeah, but the 2,000 life points takes you lower, doubles this thing, attack with both win game. Demise has to be in your hand, Ritual Art should be in your hand, Dozer has to be in your hand, Megamorph has to be in your hand.
Correct.
You stack your deck? Is this hard?
Well, you did say that all these things are searchable for the most part. I think the only...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! You just have what you need when you want it by turn maybe 2 at the latest, at all times. Got it.
I will say the exception is Doomdozer is like the only one of these that's not searchable. But, yes, I just showed you.
Megamorph is very unsearchable as well.
This was, if you can believe it, a
There is a very early card that searches any equipped spell, but it comes at the cost of disabling your normal summon, which is very important for this deck. And besides, Megamorph is not that vital to this strategy.
It's just a very aggressive deck, and if the opponent can kill you before
It's a nice guarantee.
And you don't really need all
And in a format like Edison, you can handle drawing a few bricks in your starting hand since
as such, Demise
games are a lot slower.
Limited. It was never banned, but it was limited to a singular copy to curb the power of this deck. And Advanced Ritual Art, the card you thought was the bigger problem.
Cards that aren't useful immediately,
as well.
the turn you draw them are not that big of a deal in slower formats.
Yeah, that's the Demise OTK.
But obviously, modern deck building philosophy has been getting applied in Time Wizard formats.
I love old decks because they can have 4-card combos that you don't have to have on turn 1 to be good. That's what I remember in old Magic too. We used to be able to put together all kinds of silly and like crazy win cons. Now it's like just over. It's like A plus B equals dead on turn like 2 or 3, and in Magic that's insanely fast. And in Yu-Gi-Oh, I imagine after some of the things I've seen.
For old Yu-Gi-Oh, this was quite explosive, I will say. And people just love Duke Dozer. Like, Duke Dozer is just it's a giant centipede. It's so cool.
Oh, sure. Give him the centipede. Yeah, hell yeah. Who doesn't love a good centipede?
Alright, next card.
Herald of Perfection. Hold on. We must open in another window.
I just realized I clicked the wrong video.
Who will win? Alice.
I'm rewatching the stupid ritual video again.
Last time Alice was in the finals was year 2, right? And lost there. So let's see if it loses again.
I'm gonna go now, actually.
Nothing to it.
Jizzy got it. Yeah,
Perfect
Jizzy got it.
timing. This is something special.
That's an 8.
You've made a
Congratulations,
wise
good
choice.
start.
Please
All
the
right.
yes at once.
I've called you worse. I have and I will.
All right,
now
I'll
you
get
understand,
ready.
it's the cycle of torture, right? Like, it started with me, and it goes on to... You chose the name of yourself, Raw River Dinosaur. That's not...
Just leave it there.
Who's next? Is Baylor here? I think Baylor's on the hand check. He's debating with Baylor and Frey. Oh, yeah, deciding that's not good enough for him. The thing is, though, this gets full Mitsu combo.
Just leave it there.
Do Baylor Feral
Right,
instead? Then
your
you can
items.
Ugo drive. Oh, he's called by it. It's not fucking better. Alright, Ugo
All
looking
right,
hella
take
clean.
them and off you go.
Called by Baylor engine. Oh, is there a Charmy in Damien's hand? I didn't see a Charmy there.
Guess I'm on the job.
Magnum Hut. If there's a Fua, there might be some hope. Probably not mine. But, oh, no, I don't think there's a Fua.
Hello? Which one you want?
Yeah, Feral ones make
Here
sense.
you go.
I like Hims.
Is that all you came? What you got for me?
Maybe I'll summon.
I got some new boots.
Chain Callby,
Take
probably.
a look.
I'm fine with Callby here. You already played as Droll. Like, people aren't playing on Callby on 1.
Here you go.
Can he live with Eclipse? He can. Okay, so he's deciding he wants to sleep with
What you got
Eclipse.
for me?
That's like probably fine as well. I don't know. It just feels... Everything feels bad, man. It's just so bad. It's just with Star to Frost and Duo.
Welcome to the Rooster Inn.
Wait, what?
Sign in over here, please.
Not going to Star.
Very well. Then allow me to show you to your room. Sign in over here, please.
Wait, what? I'm very confused. What happened? That
Well, be careful out there.
This plays Instant Nib as well.
It's you.
I don't get this. What? Why? Who is Baylor self? Why
Is
is
there
it call by?
anything
Yeah, I
else?
actually understand the call, not call by Baylor. That's fine, but not
What?
making
I
Euro
don't
here
need
and then just going twins plus, then go twins, no send twins. Like that sounds so much better. His hand is. Field's got white
He's
binder.
got wide connections.
2 materials in that nigga. It's still gonna be hard to deal with. But
Hey there.
plays no cross and star. We saw him have a star in his deck. He plays star and cross. Overthinking it probably? I mean, maybe. Swing over that first, sure. Are we just going... Might be like a normal summon, make Link Garibo. You know I protect. Right. There's no way to protect, right? Protecting here, you don't need 2 materials. Ooh, I don't know about that. That's another... That worked out pretty well for me, not gonna lie. Yeah, so Baylor here makes sense. Now you can go
Which one are you interested in?
make SP. Like you go lane SP at the detonator. Oh, what the hell? That card's pretty much like
What'll
Rebo.
it be? counting
Oh,
on you.
Baylor's not good this format? Yeah, I don't think Baylor's good. Didn't do that much.
Ah, it's you.
I think Baylor's usable, but it wasn't great.
Keep it quick. See you around.
Are we still targeting that in, or to get the back row?
What brings you here to
It's still
Radar?
probably got advantage. Bandcheck's pretty good.
Was there
He's
something
kind
you are
of
free
pop
to leave?
himself, but probably not. You don't pop himself.
Welcome to the
because he
Rooster Inn. Sign in over here, please.
does let him fall. That's making things too. Why wouldn't you just